Honestly, I enjoyed the race. I thought it was entertaining, but I'm also seeing, as usual, a lot of people who were very dissatisfied with the race and it being on Easter and all that. But I'm kind of curious. We haven't really got into it. What side of the fence are you on when it comes to dirt action? Because, again, I thought we saw a good race, but a lot of people are taking the stance. They don't think these cars should be racing on dirt. Where are you kind of landing on this, the controversy? Should that NASCAR race on dirt? Should they keep doing it at Bristol? What's kind of your thoughts on this? Because I feel like that's kind of the main kind of topic this year, because we're not sure if they're going back next year or not. That decision has not yet been made.
Yeah, because this was the third time we got to see them on dirt at Bristol. And to me, it was entertaining. Like you said, the Easter weekend, this was only the second time that they've done that in the past 30-something years. So it's not an every week occurrence by any means that we get this kind of entertainment out of the Cup Series. So from a pure entertainment perspective, it worked out great from my point of view. We got to do all the family fun activities. The kids got to go and have their fun. We got dinner, desserts, all the fun things that we're usually accustomed to, and then got to wind down with some dirt action, and I thought it produced a pretty good, entertaining race. Like, sure, there weren't a lot of guys that were competing up at the front. It was pretty much the Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick show. But to go back to your original question, I don't know if this product has been played out or if there's more that they can gain by bringing it back to Bristol, racing on the dirt. And to me, it's like, I think this is the last time I kind of want to see this, because I know there's other great places that they can go and get a really good experience for the fans that might not be in attendance, but get to or get to take in the race from an TV or however they decide to take in the race. But to have something on Easter, it could be something that they continue to change up that's a little bit more of an iconic race that might change, kind of like what they've done with the Coliseum race, but move it. That would be a little bit of a shift from the traditional way NASCAR has handled things. But it's
wait, are you saying that you think that this should not be a points race, that they need to race on Easter but not be for points?
I think they can do a points race, but if it's not too far of a shift from how things have been done, if they maybe take this to a different spot, maybe race a dirt track like at Eldora or something, like I know many people have brought up, maybe will present a better race because that track's meant for it. But at the same time, are these cars, like we were talking about, meant for dirt racing? To me, it provided an entertaining evening of racing, and we saw a lot of chaos. And I know my father-in-law was at the house, and he was like, "Is that NASCAR on dirt?" Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "That's cool." So he sat down and watched for a little bit, and he's usually just kind of a casual viewer, but he was entertained. He thought it was one of the coolest things he's seen in a while. So I know from a fan's perspective, it's cool to see these kind of one-off events, but to bring it back to your point again, is it a points race? And I say, yeah, we have to kind of keep that in play, because I know a lot of people also, Bristol seems to be at the top of the list of people's favorite track. If you bring up people's favorite track, the list is very short of tracks that are always on that list, and Bristol's one of them. So covered in dirt, I know it kind of ticks race fans off a little bit to see that, but it is cool to get a different experience for fans, to bring new fans into the sport that might not be an everyday or every Sunday viewer. So there's a lot going on. NASCAR has a lot going on right now. They have a lot of irons in the fire, and it's going to be interesting to see if they get this renewed for another season, if they bring this back, or if they shift things up and we've got a new experience, or if Bristol's just another concrete race. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason for this shift is the spring attendance was down quite a bit compared to the night race later in the year. The racing was at times good, but didn't seem to have quite the pop that it has later in the year for that night race, which is also a playoff race. So I wouldn't have picked that track to try to do that on. But here's where I want to give NASCAR props is, this is the third year, and every year it seems like it has become a better dirt track. It's not a real dirt track because it's not that way all the time. They're not doing these same sort of, I guess they're doing similar prep, but it's not a traditional dirt track. It's very high banked. But I think what the progress that NASCAR made from the first race, which was kind of a disaster, but also they learned we can't run this during the day. That's why we saw the shift tonight. And I think putting it on Easter, kind of how it worked out, like with you and your family, people who may not have caught it, but because you had it on, you were interested in it, they kind of saw it. Now, does that translate to viewership down the line? Well, probably for most people it won't, but it can for some. And when you're trying to grow the fan base back up, you do want to try to hit those. And I think it was smart to make the shift and put it on Easter later in the day because they have to run it. If they're not going to run this race on a Saturday, like more traditional, dirt races would be, then yeah, let's put it on a Sunday night. We know Sunday nights seems to not be the best for NASCAR. I'm very curious to see what the TV ratings are for this race. But when it falls on a holiday like it did, I think it's a good move. But I'm kind of with you. I don't know if we want to continue seeing it on Bristol unless they allow the teams to start making different modifications to the car that would let the car be set up a little bit better for dirt on that track. Can they do it where there's no windshields, that kind of stuff? Because we got some great shots from the new helmet cam that they've been rolling out this year, similar to what they're doing in F1. And I think Chastain, maybe a couple other drivers, but I know Chastain was one that had that helmet cam. And I believe he was one of the drivers who pitted stage 1 but did not pit stage 2. And they were showing him late in stage 3. And you couldn't see a freaking thing out the windshield. And there's really nothing that he can do. The wipers aren't going to do anything. He's got to do the tear off. So if they can make some modifications like that where it can still be kind of the next-gen car, but it is set up better for dirt, then I think we could get an even better show. But I think for what it is, yeah, these aren't meant to be on dirt, but that's also kind of what's cool about it. It's, hey, we are taking the car that we're running now. We're also paying a little tribute to the history of NASCAR, start having, way back in the day races on dirt, that's kind of stuff. A lot of the drivers come through the dirt series. I like that aspect. And then the other thing that I think, the reason why I think there's so much pushback is the same people who are pushing back against NASCAR are wanting more traditional style racing. That's just not what NASCAR is anymore. They've made that shift a while back with the playoff format. Right or wrong, it is what it is. They are trying to make this a better racing product for fans. There are plenty of other series out there who run more traditional style racing, and if that's your thing, that's awesome. Follow those sports, but you're trying to make a sport that clearly does not want to be that anymore. They're trying to be something different and something new. I think you need to embrace these kind of changes because we saw drivers up at the front who aren't always up at the front. The next gen car has made the competition a little bit tighter. And so there are a few more of these moments where you see guys who would be in bad equipment or not great equipment, have a few good runs, but most of the time you kind of know where they're going to run. We saw several guys who would normally finish outside the top 15. They were in the top 5, top 10. These races, the way this championship is won is to get into the playoffs. This different style of racing allows for teams to get their driver in. You may not like that. You might like the season-long points. I get that. But that's just not what NASCAR is anymore. So if they're not going to be that, I think there needs to be some of these races where it's not just 1.5 miles and then short tracks and then the occasional super speedway. There needs to be more variety, especially if you're going to tout these drivers as the best in the world. They need more of a challenge than just an oval. I'm not saying that that's not hard, but let's mix it up. I love the road course additions that they've had over the last couple of years. That really mixes things up. Yeah, we typically see some of the same top-end guys up there, but I don't know, man. I liked what I saw out of Bristol, from Bristol Dirt. Justin Haley getting a 6th, Austin Dillon running really well. I thought there was moments that he was about to take the lead and run away with it. Him having the background that he did, like, it really helped him. So I think overall it's like if you can just have a shift in your perspective of what NASCAR is, what they're trying to do, and kind of embrace it, giving those more constructive criticism and feedback from that perspective, I think we can have a really, really good series and seasons for the next, 10, 20 years. But that's going to take a shift in mindset from the fans, and I don't know if we're quite there yet.
Yeah, that's like just your opinion, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not going to be that easy. There's a lot of people that like that traditional aspect that is certainly lacking. They've gone the entertainment way.
But what sport hasn't changed?
And it's exactly the case. Things adapt. You have to adapt or die in business, and at the end of the day, NASCAR is a business. So any final thoughts about Bristol?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to see this race next year on Easter?
I wouldn't be upset if it was brought back, but I would like to see Bristol, the traditional race, too, because I talked about it a little bit earlier. It is probably on the top 5 favorite places that NASCAR goes on my list even. So it's hard to want to see it on Bristol in the dirt, but I'd watch again if it played out that way, because the evening race, like we talked about, just kind of fit the schedule. I wouldn't be upset. How about yourself?
I wouldn't be. I think I'd like to still see a dirt race, one, just because it does change things up. It is a bit of a wild card race. I understand some people may not like that, but I think that's good for the sport. Some of the best racing is at like Talladega and Daytona, because you see these guys who aren't normally up there. They get those wins or those really good runs. That's what this type of track can produce. I wouldn't be mad if they tried a different track, or I don't think that I would like to see them go through all the effort to turn a paved track into dirt. If they could find a good dirt track to go to that would kind of support everything. I don't think they need to, especially if it's going to be on Easter, I don't think they need to have a big place for a lot of fans, because the attendance didn't look great. I think that's because of Easter. I think that's because there had been some pretty bad weather leading up into the weekend. We didn't even get practice on Friday in either series, which was a real bummer. The heat races I thought were good in both series, so that was fun and exciting. So I think if they can find a good short track, good dirt short track that is close to the area where Charlotte and can find a decent track to run at, I think that might be a nice move just to change it up. It would be nice to see 2 Bristol races again, just to kind of see, okay, can we run here with this car? How's it going to be? But again, I'm kind of with you. If they brought it back, I wouldn't be too mad, but I would like to see it changed up just a little bit. But I would still like to see a dirt race in there somewhere, but it does not need to be Bristol Dirt, in my opinion.
If you like that clip, check out the full audio version of that episode on all the major podcasting platforms. If videos are more your thing, check out the full episode on losinggrippodcast.com.